Hey, FD, I got one more question before I jet off.
Thomas.
For everyone here, plus I'd like to hear also Mr. Jeremy's point on this because he brought it up. I mean, he pumps out his good hockey content, and for a guy that lives over here in Washington State, we got our minor league hockey. Why isn't hockey as popular? I mean, I'm just saying that this is just as your basic collector. Why isn't hockey, you know, as popular as you would almost assume it should be? As being, I mean, it's still considered a major sport, regardless of, the hobbies look at it.
I mean, you got me. I think everyone's missing the boat. Or listen, it comes down to what you enjoy, what you grew up with, what sports resonate with you, what you might have played, what was accessible. One of the biggest things you hear about hockey is that it's a very expensive sport to play. So if your kids get into it, you gotta, the equipment, you gotta rent the ice time with this and that.
True.
You can't just go to the basketball court at any schoolyard sort of thing and take a ball with you. You need a lot more than the ball to play a game of hockey. It was a big deal when Wayne Gretzky got traded from Edmonton to LA in 1988 and started there, and that did jumpstart a big expansion throughout the U.S., like the places like Florida and Dallas and Carolina and etc. And it just didn't catch on. I think a lot of it has to do with the marketing that the NHL does. I don't think that they're the strongest of marketers, and you also, another common reason is that the players that wear the helmets, so you can't see their faces as much, which makes it a little bit harder to market them. I mean, it's just baseball's America's pastime. Hockey is is obviously Canada's pastime. Although some may argue lacrosse and that, but we'll go with hockey. And so those are the reasons that pop into my mind. It's a fun sport. You have the sort of the contact of football and then some, and the speed and finesse of basketball. There's almost no baseball, except maybe the back catcher is a little bit like a goalie, but that's a different function. So, I mean, that's all I can think of. It's really what people grew up and what they see on the highlights every night before they go to bed, and all these different factors come into play. But that's what I would say. But I have noticed recently that hockey cards are, I think everyone's noticed, they are hot. They've gone up in value. There's a lot of special cards that are really catching fire, and I think that, as people in the hobby look for other avenues and look for other segments and niches to maybe exploit, capitalize on, or just find interest in and collect, hockey is reasonable. I mean, it's been around for a very long time, as long as any of the other sports. It's got a lot of tradition. The original 6 teams, 4 of them are from the United States. There's big followings for those teams: Detroit, Boston, New York, and Chicago. And so, I mean, it should be more popular. I see soccer climbing the ladder on the gem rate stats and on the eBay stats, and how big the markets are. And so, it's sad to see soccer overtake hockey by such a wide margin to me, because you hear a lot of people talk about the big sports that it's always basketball, football, baseball. Well, to me, to us being Canadians, I think we think that it's the big 4 sports, and that 4th sport is hockey. But in the hobby, soccer has become the 4th sport, and hockey's been pushed down to number 5. And I think I don't like it, but hey, it's good. It makes some hockey cards a little bit more affordable, perhaps. But if you look at gem rate and the amount of cards that PSA is pumping out in hockey related to the other sports, there's scarce. There's grading scarcity there. There's slab scarcity there compared to the others. So. Them are some random thoughts.
Those are excellent points. I totally agree with you, Jeremy. Totally. And also, too, I think people would just have to make a connection with it. Because I live here in Philadelphia, and everybody I know who goes to a Flyers game, they love it. They fall in love with hockey. And they're like, oh, my God. It takes sometimes for people to actually experience it live. Then they'll start watching it on TV. Like, I'll put it on TV.
Yeah.
And lately I've been following Sarah Fuller on the women's side, and she's young and she's very good, and her cards are pretty reasonable, but they're started to increase in value as well. But yeah, I just think it's a connection piece. But the biggest thing is the marketing, as you said. I hope they do a better job with marketing hockey players.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's the marketing and it's where you live. Because when I was in Detroit, the Red Wings, and when I was even in Chicago or St. Louis, hockey's big.
Oh, the Red Wings were the best team in the '90s. Steve Yzerman, yeah, you had all those guys. Yeah, Nicholas Lindstrom,
Fedorov.
Yeah, but the other big thing with that too is I think ESPN just picked up hockey for the first time this year, and forever, right? Wow. Hockey would get no national coverage, so I mean that's one of the biggest factors I think too. Yes. And now hockey's actually finally starting to get national coverage. So that's a big thing, you know. And I think with that lockout, the big lockout in the '90s, that kind of pushed, you know, hockey aside too back then. You know, whenever these lockouts happen, it always leaves a sour taste in fans' mouths, you know, because people are like, oh, greedy.
Baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, baseball ruined itself in the '90s too. I mean, everybody, you know.
Baseball might be able to ruin itself right now. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I'd recommend that people do who want to, you know, have a look, go on YouTube and do a search for like Connor McDavid's top 10 goals or Sidney Crosby's or, you know, one of these guys, and just watch, especially Connor McDavid, watch what this guy does at a high speed. No other athletes do that. You don't see that in football, basketball, or for sure not baseball. Check it out. Not to take anything away from those sports and those skill sets and all of that. I love, you know, they're all great sports, but just look
we're on blades and we're running.
Look at what these guys do at super high speed on two blades under their feet with a puck this size at the end of a stick that's, you know, 5-6 feet away from them. So
the other thing too is if people aren't familiar with hockey, if you never really got into it, you don't understand it, just go to a hockey game. I'm not a big hockey guy at all. I used to watch it in the '90s and stuff, but my uncle, he actually built the Boston Garden. He's like did all the concrete, all the infrastructure for it. So we go to Bruins games every once in a while when I go back home to Boston. I'm in LA, but I'll go back to Boston, and you know, we went over Christmas last year, and like just seeing a game in person, the energy of the fans and like the speed, what Jeremy was saying, the aggression, the passion, it's such an energy inside of a hockey arena. And I've been to it. Like, you go to a baseball game, you're falling asleep come the 7th inning. That's why you're getting up the stretch, because you're literally falling asleep, you know. But a hockey game, the energy is like, it's man, like, if you want to understand hockey, go to a game, see it in person, because, I mean, blows most sports away live, you know, blows, like I said, baseball, soccer, all that stuff away live. I mean, hockey is, it's a different beast. It's fun.
I remember my first hockey match in St. Louis. This was years ago, like 2002. And I'm sitting probably 4 rows off the ice, and I just couldn't take everything in. And then the game wasn't full, right? So someone suggested to me, hey, if they go way up into the cheaper seats and really see the strategy that's going on the ice. And when I went up there, I got a totally different respect for what I was sitting and watching.
That's a really good point, FD, because it's so true. There are so many different places you can sit at a hockey game with those different perspectives. They all give you a fully different look of the game itself. It's fun to be down low. It's fun to be behind the net and get that long view of the ice. It's fun to sit at center ice and get that side view. But if you go up high, you can see the play developing, and you get a. I think that's where you get the best appreciation for it. Scouts sit up high and look down on the game, right? You know, so when they're looking for that sort of the IQ angle of the game and that skill set.
To your first thought, Michael, my opinion is I think a lot of people right now, if you don't like basketball, you're basically chasing soccer for the World Cup. You're chasing F1 because that season's going to be starting soon, and the new Netflix season came out, so there's a lot of hype built behind that right now. They also just launched a new product. The other thing is UFC, man. I've seen a lot of people buying UFC. I bought some Chronicles blasters of UFC, and they had gone up almost $30 since I bought them about 2 months ago. It's just because it's becoming a hotter product, and it's not on shelves anymore. But I think those are kind of the big three. For me, when it comes to like why is hockey not hot, it's because I think this last year we've seen a lot of people getting back into the hobby more than people that have been in the hobby. And I think a lot of people, when they were getting back into it, got back into what they were comfortable with or what they already had, which is usually basketball or football or baseball, you know. But the one thing for me too is you don't see a lot of hockey at shows. You see a lot of vintage, you see a lot of Gretzky, but you don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of people ripping hockey either, and ripping wax is another reason that things pick up.
Yeah.
That's how F1 really got hot.
I got to hop off, but before I go, since I am in the land of Canada as well, I can quickly speak on the hockey thing. Everybody here always loves it. I didn't grow up in Canada. I came here very early. That's why my English is unaccented. But I started off speaking Spanish, and I took ESL classes. So, yo hablo español. But the point is that I never played a damn game of organized hockey in my life. I enjoyed the sport. My favorite player is a hockey player, and I collect the sport. I've collected it for a long time. It's fun to collect. The fan base is passionate, but it's still niche. There's nothing you can do to sell the sport to somebody who isn't interested in selling the sport.
Absolutely.
It's the same reason why I say like the F1 thing and all that stuff. It's like, that's cool. It's like, oh, millions of people have. I totally believe you. Lots of people like NASCAR too. And are you guys chasing the NASCAR cards? These sports are not new. We didn't recently invent any of them. The only reason you're going to appeal to somebody, and Jeremy said the prices go up, yeah, because they were cheap relative to the other stuff. So people go, oh, if it goes up in price, then I can make money. I don't care if it's Tiddlywinks cards then.
Right.
It makes no difference. Why would I care? Nothing personal. It's like hockey's great. Again, I collect it. But it's like, guys, the only reason the prices went up is because people saw dollar signs. Yep. The rest of us has been collecting this for years. It's like, yeah, it was cheap. I collect the first ballot Hall of Famer. The stuff I buy is cheap as hell.
I think one of the big things that's hindering us right now too is the border and all the high shipping rates right now. If there was cheaper shipping rates for international shipping, I think we would see a lot more people buying hockey and buying these sports from different countries around in Canada and Hawaii and this and that too.
It would help, yeah. But it's one of those things, like you can show people the sport. Jeremy's right, 100% right. If you show somebody a live hockey game, you can get them to appreciate the sport. But the big point that I always make, and I'll kind of leave on this thought, and I say this for any sport, doesn't matter what it is. You can make somebody a fan of the sport. Doesn't mean I need the cards. It's like that was the point that people made about the Luka Doncic when it was going through the roof. It's like, oh, Luka Doncic has millions of fans. Yes, but they want shirts, they want jerseys, they want hats. They don't need cards. I'm a card collector. I watch a ton of football. Even in Canada, we were apparently allowed to have it. It hasn't been outlawed yet. Soon, but not yet. I've watched every Super Bowl since the early 90s. I've watched them all, and I've watched tons of playoff games, and I enjoy the sport, and I watch it. It's the sport I collect the least. Doesn't mean I don't have any football cards, and I'm a card collector. I've been collecting since 1990, uninterrupted. This is year 32 of me collecting cards. I am a card collector. I am a fan of the sport, and I still barely collect the cards. I'm not alone. People can enjoy the sport and they don't necessarily need the cards. Baseball is still my favorite. That's the one I collect number one. But I collect a single hockey player. I don't collect all hockey cards either.
Yep.
All collectors are a little bit different. We're all different in different ways. It's like, but you like the sport. Yeah. Doesn't mean I need the cards.